Bayley may not have announced that she's leaving WWE, but she's certainly given people something to talk about. A new post from the former women's champion has reportedly raised eyebrows backstage, with references to AEW adding even more fuel to the speculation surrounding her future. Meanwhile, WWE has just introduced the son of the late Umaga to NXT, and Zilla Fatu wasted absolutely no time making his presence known. Chelsea Green is also set to remain WWE Women's Champion, despite suffering an injury, while SmackDown could be heading back to 3 hours in 2027. So, with several major stories developing across WWE, let's break down exactly what's happening, what's confirmed, and what could happen next.
Is Bayley leaving WWE? Bayley may not have announced that she's leaving WWE, but she's certainly given people something to talk about. The former women's champion recently posted a video showing herself training in several different locations with different wrestlers. One of those wrestlers was her longtime friend and former WWE star, Mercedes Moné. And on its own, that probably wouldn't mean much. But then there was the caption, "All or nothing, baby." And the video used a song called All In. That's particularly interesting because All In is the name of AEW's biggest annual event. Now, none of this confirms that Bayley is going to AEW, but according to WrestleVotes, speaking to Fightful Select, the post reportedly didn't land well with everyone backstage in WWE.
Some people apparently described it as eyebrow-raising, and that is what makes this more interesting than just another social media post, because speculation about Bayley's future has already been building for weeks. It started after she lost to Lyra Valkyria at Saturday night's main event on July 18th. The way that match ended could easily have been used to write Bayley off television if WWE knew she was preparing to leave. But that didn't happen. Bayley returned for WWE house shows later in July, with her most recent appearance coming on July 26th. So right now, we have two very different pieces of information. On one side, there is a growing amount of speculation surrounding her future. On the other, there is no confirmation that Bayley is actually leaving WWE.
2. Umaga's son just arrived in WWE. While Bayley's future remains uncertain, WWE has just introduced a name whose future could be considerably easier to predict, because Zilla Fatu is here. The 26-year-old son of the late Umaga made his first major appearance on WWE programming during NXT, and he didn't wait around for an introduction. During a #1 contender match between Grayson Waller and Cruz Montana, Fatu came through the crowd and immediately attacked both competitors. First came the pop-up Samoan drop on Cruz Montana. Then Fatu turned his attention to Grayson Waller, nearly taking him out with a Superman punch. And he wasn't finished. Fatu followed it up with an Uso splash on both men before turning his attention toward NXT champion Tony D'Angelo. That's when he made his intentions very clear. Fatu pointed toward the NXT Championship and declared that he wanted it. And suddenly, WWE has introduced a new member of one of wrestling's most famous families with an obvious target already in sight. But the interesting part isn't simply that Zilla Fatu is Umaga's son. It's what WWE can potentially do with that connection. The Anoa'i and Fatu family has already produced some of the biggest names in wrestling history. Umaga himself became one of WWE's most memorable monsters during the mid-2000s. And Zilla has the family connection, the physical presence, and now the immediate motivation to chase championship gold.
3. Chelsea Green has 30 days to save her title. Chelsea Green is still the WWE Women's Champion at SummerSlam, but now she has a deadline. Last week, Green suffered a broken orbital bone on SmackDown, just days after becoming the interim Women's Champion at SummerSlam. And that injury immediately put her championship reign in doubt. But WWE has now made its decision. At the start of this week's SmackDown, General Manager Nick Aldis confronted Green and asked her to relinquish the championship because of her injury. And Chelsea Green wasn't having it. Instead, Green reminded Aldis of everything she had sacrificed to become champion. Her argument was simple. She's still the champion, and nobody has taken the title from her. Aldis then gave her a way to prove it.
Chelsea Green has 30 days to get medically cleared and defend the championship. Until then, she remains the women's champion. And that changes this story completely. Because WWE could have simply stripped Green of the title and moved on. Instead, they've created a ticking clock around her championship reign. Green now has 30 days to recover. If she gets cleared, she can defend the title and continue her reign. But if she doesn't, WWE will have to make another decision.
What happens when Rhea Ripley returns? Because Ripley is still the actual WWE Women's Champion. Green is the interim champion. So if Ripley returns before Green's 30-day deadline, WWE could suddenly have to deal with two champions who are both claiming the same championship. And that could give WWE a very interesting story heading into the next stage of the women's division. For now, though, Chelsea Green has managed to do something that seemed unlikely just a week ago. She got injured, was asked to surrender her championship, and somehow walked out of SmackDown still champion. But the clock is now ticking. Chelsea Green has 30 days to get cleared, and if she can't, her championship reign could be in serious trouble. 4. SmackDown is going back to 3 hours. And finally, WWE may be changing the way you watch SmackDown once again. The blue brand switched back to a 2-hour format in July. But according to WrestleVotes, speaking to Fightful Select, sources from USA Network have indicated that SmackDown is expected to return to 3 hours in January 2027. The tentative date is January 8, and if that happens, it would mark another change in the runtime of one of WWE's biggest weekly shows. SmackDown has gone back and forth between 2 and 3 hours over the past few years, and reports indicate that WWE's current deal with USA Network could see the company alternate between the two formats throughout the 5-year agreement that began in 2024.
So why does this matter? Because 3 hours gives WWE considerably more television time. That sounds like an obvious positive. More time means more matches, more storylines, more opportunities for wrestlers. But there's another side to it. More television time doesn't automatically mean better television. One of the biggest advantages of the 2-hour SmackDown format is that it forces WWE to be selective. There is less room for filler, less room for matches that don't advance a storyline, and less time for segments that could otherwise drag. When SmackDown expands back to 3 hours, WWE will have to fill that additional hour every week, and that could have a significant impact on the pacing of the show.
The timing is also interesting. The reported January 8 date would put the change right at the beginning of the new year, just before WWE heads into its European tour. So if the report is accurate, fans could be entering 2027 with a completely different version of SmackDown. And the question will be whether WWE uses that extra hour to give more talent opportunities, or simply gives us more television.
So right now, there are a lot of moving pieces across WWE and AEW. Bayley's latest post has added even more fuel to the speculation surrounding her WWE future. Zilla Fatu has arrived in NXT with a championship already in his sights. Chelsea Green appears set to remain women's champion despite her injury. And SmackDown could once again become a 3-hour show in 2027. But these stories are still developing, and if anything changes, we'll be keeping an eye on it. For now, that's everything you need to know.